Hi, I'm Elise Naramore. The primary purpose of this video series is to explain how the learning progression method is implemented with a special focus on the logistics of grading. This is part 4, in which you will learn about the different types of assignments, how they are assessed, and how they are used to develop mastery. Recall that the practices describe behaviors shown by students as they engage with the skills and knowledge specific to my discipline. This is distinct from units, topics, and content. Content is the vehicle, while the practice is the roadway, with mastery at some defined level being the destination. These are the 10 practices that I use in physics classes. Everything that students do is practice. Whether it is graded or not, it is an opportunity to work on the learning progression at the target level. Everything, even the tests, is just practice. Detailed written feedback can be provided by me, the teacher, by a classmate, or by the student on his or her own work. However, there's no grade associated with the feedback on an individual assignment. Feedback is not always provided by the teacher to the individual student. For example, the teacher may have the students check their own quizzes and homework assignments, guiding them through the rubric to have them self-assess. This helps students learn how the rubric works and understand what is required to earn a particular score. As stated in earlier modules, we have 3 types of assessments: lab reports, checkpoints, and projects, each associated with 2 to 4 distinct practices. Within the types of assessments, we have 2 types of practice: guided and independent. Guided practice is direct instruction by the teacher, me, in the form of notes and worked problems. Typical examples of how to address each type of question at each developmental level are provided. A majority of my guided practice is provided using pre-recorded videos, which students love because they can do them anywhere, anytime, and at their own pace. They can revisit them for a review or if they get stuck. Of course, this is supplemented with plenty of in-class instruction at the board or as I walk around the classroom working with small groups or individuals. Independent practice occurs when students are ready to challenge themselves. It's always very similar to the guided practice, but students now work with minimal assistance from me. I usually provide answer keys in the form of video or scanned solutions so that students can self-check and then get assistance with any corrections or confusions. Here's the deal. Research shows that the quantity and type of homework depends on the grade level, the community support, and the course. I teach 11th graders, and there's simply not enough time in class to not assign homework. For consistency, I simply assign homework every night. It may be note-taking, guided practice, independent practice, a lab report, project documentation, or just studying vocabulary, or a combination. If you are a student listening to this, it's absolutely crucial for your success that you do the homework. You cannot get good at anything unless you practice consistently. That doesn't mean you have to spend 1,000,000 hours. Actually, if you do the homework as assigned, you won't need to ever spend hours upon hours. My philosophy is that you should spend 30 focus minutes a day. If you don't finish in 30 minutes and you can say that you didn't get distracted, you weren't multitasking, I give you permission to stop. The most successful students are the ones who are consistent. That doesn't mean you never miss a day or that sometimes you don't finish the whole assignment. It's like participating in a sport or the school band. You show up to practice all the time for hours, right? So that you're ready for the big performance. You can miss a day here and there, but more than that's going to affect the final big performance. So everything matters, but nothing counts. Why? You practice because it will enable you to master the skills of the class. If you are only motivated by grades, life's going to be really hard for you because you don't get graded in real life. Like, why do you play Candy Crush for hours or practice your guitar or have to clock a certain number of hours behind the wheel before getting your driver's license? Because you have to perform, and the only way to get good at it is to practice. That said, sometimes when you practice, it's really hard and you don't do very well. Sometimes you do great because it seems really easy. Either way, there's no effect on your grade. I also want to provide flexibility. If a particular skill is super easy for you, then just do a few and then stop. If it's really hard, do as much as you can without worrying about any penalty for errors. If you have a huge math test to study for, or you're working late one night, just do 10 minutes of practice instead of the usual 30. You can tailor it to your needs, but just be consistent, as it really does matter that you practice. Back in Module 1 and again in Module 3, when I was describing the characteristics of learning progressions, I said that content is the medium or the vehicle, not the destination. But of course, content matters for our classes. Content knowledge and its application are inextricably intertwined. Before students can apply information, they must know what the information is. So the most basic step is to know the vocabulary. To check the vocabulary for each unit, you will take content mastery checkpoints. These are 6 to 10 question quizzes, of which the first 3 questions are always matching: units of measurement, definitions of terms, and representative symbols that are used. The remaining multiple choice questions are pulled from a question bank, digging a bit deeper into the subtleties of the definitions. You have 5 attempts on this over the course of each unit, approximately once a week. Knowing this, let's look at the learning progression called Engaging with Content. The first 3 levels address content knowledge. For beginning, you must earn at least 75% on any one of the content mastery checkpoints for this unit. Remember, there are 5. For developing, you have to earn at least 85% on any 2 of the content mastery checkpoints for this unit. For proficient, you must earn at least 95% on the most recent of the content mastery checkpoints for this unit. Also at the developing level, students are required to use terminology and context in their project, although it may not all be correct yet. At the proficient level, students are required to apply the concepts. In other words, great for you to simply know the vocabulary, show me that you can use it to explain the various aspects of the project. In order for students to demonstrate skills at an advanced level, clear and correct presentation of concepts are required. You can't separate higher order thinking skills from content expertise. Content will always be important. It's just not the main focus. There has been a lot of discussion in educational circles over the past 5 years or more regarding reassessment versus retakes. How many chances should a student get to show that they've mastered the material? What strategy works best to move students to success? Let's define these terms before we discuss them. A retake is when you take an exam again because you failed it the first time. The whole premise of a redo is to provide students an additional opportunity on the same or a similar summative assessment in order to show improvement in their knowledge base and raise their score. There are many different approaches to redos, but the basic idea is that students are given an opportunity to review, remediate, and then retry. It's very laudable as a premise. Students complete corrections or supplemental work outside of class time. They schedule time, also outside of class time, to retake the assessment. Repeat until the student is out of attempts, happy with their score, or frustrated and stops coming. All of this is occurring while the class is continued on to the next concept. Since the process of reviewing, remediating, and retrying is happening concurrent with new learning, this splits attention, which we know from cognitive load theory is detrimental to learning. While these policies are intended to level the playing field, they unintentionally do the opposite by placing an inordinate burden on this group of students, not to mention the teachers scrambling to keep up on top of the workload. While deeply thinking about this, we noticed that throughout our 10 practices, we were spiraling through the curriculum, appearing in every unit we study. Because of this, students have a new attempt on the practice over and over again. Therefore, we could eliminate redos and focus on reassessment. After each assessment, students are provided descriptive feedback on where they are in the learning progression and their next steps to progress to the next developmental level. We move to the next unit with individualized goals in place and continue to hone the skills. Students do not need to do extra work different from the rest of the class, except for any extra help that they choose to get. Since students only get one opportunity to take each assessment, we limit split attention. They are not working on multiple units simultaneously. Recall that the practices appear on numerous assessments throughout the year, so each time we assess that practice, it replaces the previous assessment. This allows students to continually look forward as opposed to looking back. Like redos, it also eliminates the lasting negative impact of a bad day or delayed progress, but it does not place the unnecessary burden of additional hoops to jump through. They are now free to take academic risks, grow, and ultimately succeed. In addition, the teacher workload remains the same. Certainly not easy, but with no need for extra exams to score. Now that you understand the assignments in which students engage, we are ready to discuss how we monitor learning. Join me in the next module to dig into the recording and reporting of student progress.